And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Sobros Network proudly brings to you some in-depth movie discussion with our resident film critic, Brandon Vick.
Happy evening, everyone. The Vick's Flicks podcast is here.
Welcome back for another episode of the Vick's Flicks podcast right here on the Nashville Movie Dispatch. It's your boy, the EIC at SobrosNetwork.com, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley. Follow us collectively at Sobros Network on social media platforms everywhere. And of course, subscribe to Nashville Movie Dispatch for all of our reviews, podcast lists, features, all that stuff covering the entertainment industry. That's NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. Joined as usual by the star of the show himself, the man whose namesake it bears, board member of the Music City Film Critics Association, member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association. He is Mr. Big Shot, Brandon Vick. Brandon, how you doing today, my man?
Good, man. Prepping to party with my son.
Yeah, big birthday party coming up.
Yep.
Or actually, no, big birthday party yesterday.
Yeah, no, we already had it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What I meant to say is I'm recovering.
Yeah, you're recovering from a big birthday
from
party.
Living it up of a Sesame Street shindig.
I'm recovering from all of the traffic at Opry Mills on Saturday for the National Wild Turkey Federation convention or whatever.
It is. It's NWTF. I used to work at Opryland, and that is a bit like they mainly take up the entire hotel.
Was nuts.
It
they took
in
over the mall
ton
too.
Of money.
Like,
can you tell who's a part of it?
Well, there's an awful lot of trucks in the parking lot. I'll say that.
I think it's all camo. I think everybody had camo, and they have Wild Turkey callers.
People are just turkey calling throughout the festival?
Yes, I used to hear them all throughout.
That is insane behavior.
So,
Who am I to judge?
I mean, of course, why not have it here?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But
it feels like it should be at Municipal Auditorium and not at a hotel. But whatever.
But here we are dealing with the traffic. The traffic was awful.
And this is at 9-something in the morning.
9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah,
we went to see.
We're here to talk about Captain America: Brave New World. By the way, went to see it Saturday morning at Opry Mills. We had tickets for the 9:30 screening. Got to Opry Mills, like to the vicinity, 9 o'clock, and it was about 9:30 by the time we got from the main road off the exit, across, like driving by the Nashville Palace and Cracker Barrel and all that.
Oh, okay.
So we turned that left to go in the back way into
theater.
Opry Mills, and it took us about 30 minutes to get.
Was
from there
it backed
to the
up
mall.
on that Briley exit?
It was backed up on the Briley exit. It was backed up.
Did they all come today?
They were coming from everywhere. Like the
Wow.
mall traffic, people were parked that parking lot by the movie theater.
Yeah.
Full, and it's just like all these
Wow.
massive jacked up pickup trucks and.
Yeah. Well, they take up 2 spots at least.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like we were having trouble driving
So
through
it's really
the
not
parking
crowded.
lot.
It's just the vehicles.
Yeah, it's like the trucks are sticking out over the lines on both sides, and somebody's coming at you. There's not room for 2 people to drive. So like we came up on a guy, and the guy just turned into a parking spot, and we drove by, and we managed to get up pretty close to the theater because at that point, if you're closer to the theater, you're further from the convention. So it's like the inverse. All the spots by the hotel parking lot was full, but it thinned out as it got to the theater because nobody was there at 9:30 in the morning
I was
to
going
see
to
a
say,
movie.
or was there a line backed out to go see Flight Risk with
well,
Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson's movie?
Same audience, I feel like.
Yeah, and
Same
I'm sure
target
there's a 9
demographic.
o'clock in the morning thing for that. But yeah, So really,
we
they
got
ain't
out,
paying for parking is basically what they're telling Opryland Hotel.
That's what they're saying. But we left the mall area about 11:45, I think. Maybe no, it was closer to 12. And the Briley exit, like the Opry Mills exit, the main mall entrance, it was backed up like this at a standstill. From that exit, the little
like the
cloverleaf roundabout,
Oh, yeah.
From there all the way past the wave pool, it was just stopped. people trying to get in.
My God, that's Christmas time, and that should only happen during Christmas time.
So I was so pissed to see it. I'm like, how do these people love turkeys that much?
Yeah, well, yeah, and to travel for that, but hey, there's an audience for it. Trust me.
I guess so.
When I saw it, I went after work, and there was no one there. But the time that I was going to see, I checked my app and I'm like, how many people are in there? There was like maybe 4 people. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
So, but then I go there and that time's not there anymore. And I'm like, man, and I was like maybe 5 minutes after. I'm like, well, that's weird. And so I just turned to the guy that, is not doing shit, that scanned your ticket. I'm like, hey, wasn't there like a 410? And he's like, yeah, but the projector broke.
That'll do it.
So there was like a 420 or 425. And so basically they moved everybody in there, all 5 of us. And then I think there was maybe 8 of us in there. And I sat on down from a big guy with long, beautiful white hair. And he made a lot of noises during them. I was worried about him for a minute.
So we didn't have a lot of people in our theater either,
nice.
But somehow we ended up with a guy right behind us. I mean, there may have been 9 people total in the entire theater.
Were you in a big one?
And we were in the big one. Yeah, it was one of the first ones right by the big Mickey 17 promotional cardboard thing.
Yeah.
And
it's usually like either 10 or 11, I think.
It was 11. It was 11.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we could have just moved, but I operate under the premise. I'm like, no, there was nobody behind us. That's why I picked these seats.
Yeah.
It's on that person to move because he's the one that picked the seats right behind us in this giant empty theater. Halfway through the movie, this guy gets up and walks down the stairs, and I never see him come back in.
Oh, he had it.
So
you know what? I wonder if he snuck in.
He might have.
Maybe he didn't even buy a ticket, but I hate it when that happens where, especially like sometimes I'll go see an early one and I'm like, you have to sit like 2 seats apart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there's fucking 7 people in here.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm not like you. Sometimes I'll just choose a seat somewhere, and then when I get in there, I'll judge and I'll just sit somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I never sit in the seat I bought. I just get it so I can just go.
Yeah. No, I'm like, no, you're gonna move.
Yeah, no.
And you know what?
I got H10, mother.
You want to sit here? I'm gonna talk and whisper to my wife while the movie's going on, so you can fucking deal with that, buddy. Eat shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell her, hey, do you know why adamantium's important?
Which I'd like for you to tell me because I didn't get it.
Oh, we're gonna get into it.
Okay.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
I kept thinking, did Harrison Ford have to put all those CGI dots on him? Was he doing this stuff?
I don't know.
I think no. But I will tell you, and by the way, I don't believe it for 1 second. There is a story that one of the people, and apparently it was about the CGI stuff, that they called Harrison Ford a diva and that he was very difficult to work with during this and said you could tell he did not want to do it. And I thought, first of all, I could have told you Harrison Ford probably didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Harrison Ford knew he'd have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 is, I mean, he's 82 years old. Don't make him do. Don't make him.
No,
he's a legend. So don't tell me. Here's the thing: if you've been in Hollywood this long, and all of a sudden someone acts like you're a diva, I'm gonna say Harrison Ford was probably Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Saying he doesn't like this shit.
Yeah. Wasn't he also quoted at one point as saying to the rest of the crew, like, all right, time to get to work. Let's go finish this piece of shit.
I think it was one of the first scenes he had with Anthony Mackie saying, all right, let's
go shoot this
this piece of shit. But I also feel like he has a bad rap because I think he just has a dry sense of humor.
I think so,
and
too.
He does not care. And I feel the same way. I don't think he worries that if he doesn't say he's kidding, then you deal with it.
Yeah.
He's just a much higher profile person where people are like, gosh, how rude, or why is he so grumpy? And the thing is, I don't think he is to people he works with. I think it's just like, how many times can you ask him about shit like Star Wars and being the Red Hulk, and you think that man cares?
Yeah.
Like
Well, he said
at this point, I don't think he cares.
There was an interview where somebody just like point blank asked him like, "Why do this?" And he's like, "For the money. I'm getting paid."
Yeah,
and it's
I did also hear him say like, "I'm trying to do stuff I haven't done."
Yeah.
So
and
it's just he's better at like shrinking and stuff than he is maybe at being Red Hulk. I mean,
I feel like if anybody has earned the right to be a little bit of a diva, it's probably Harrison
how about
Ford.
we just let Harrison Ford do his thing?
Yeah.
He's been pretty good at it.
Yeah, so where do you want to start with Captain America Brave New World? Because I watched it and I kind of felt like, you see like, oh, it's got the worst cinema score of any Marvel Cinematic Universe movie
yet. Oh, it does?
And maybe not cinema score. Maybe it was one of the other.
I saw the audience score is like a B-. I know other Marvel stuff has gotten worse than that.
Yeah,
I think.
Metacritic maybe the worst Metacritic score ever. I can't remember, but
I think it's like 50% rotten.
Yeah, it was 48% yesterday.
Okay.
When I checked, and I don't know, man. So for one, I understand the Marvel fatigue. It's something that you and I have talked about for quite some time.
Yes.
I don't feel like this is a great movie. It feels kind of like a clusterfuck to me. It's kind of like standard issue superhero fare.
Yes.
But I also, at the same time, I don't feel like it was that bad. I mean, I feel like critics are kind of being harsh. Like, what do we expect after a certain point?
I'm on the same page. It's not great, but I've certainly have seen worse from the MCU.
Yeah, like I mean,
Deadpool and Wolverine, to be exact.
Yeah, I didn't like Deadpool and Wolverine all that much.
I didn't either.
And the issue, the way I brought it up to you before we started recording was maybe the expectations kind of impacted that. It's like Deadpool and Wolverine's going to get the MCU back on track.
Yeah.
It's going to save the MCU. And then I was let down by it. I mean, I thought it was a hot mess that tried way too hard. And I didn't really.
You want to talk about a movie that literally means nothing? That's it.
It was like a cameo fuckfest is what that movie was.
And it got where Hugh Jackman's going to do this till he's 90 years old.
Yeah. And whereas with Captain America Brave New World, everybody said, you've got Harrison Ford saying, let's go shoot this piece of shit. All the stories with all the reshoots and the delays and Marvel wanting to kind of take a break.
Seth Rollins being cut.
Seth Rollins was cut from it.
What the hell?
You start, like, the advanced screenings start coming out and people are saying this movie's dog shit. So maybe it is like going into the theater with a different perspective, but I just feel like critics were way too hard on this. I feel like it is kind of one of those movies that it is what it is. Like, it's not, to me, it's not really distinct from many of the other Marvel efforts. Even some of the earlier stuff, too.
I think that's what's sort of mind-boggling is, but besides expectations, it's not that much different than some other stuff that was received better.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but I just mean like it's an adequate action movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about it. I think Anthony Mackie as Captain America is the right choice.
I do too.
I like what he does in this movie. And if he is going to lead the charge in whatever Avengers thing comes next, I'm fine with.
Yeah. I think it was one of the few like really positive things that you could glean about the MCU moving forward. I think there were several things that were set up in this movie, but from a character development standpoint, it really felt like they put Anthony Mackie's Captain America really through the ringer, and this was his moment to kind of, we've established in the Falcon and Winter Soldier that he is Captain America.
Right.
Now
that was a good show.
Now he's kind of stepping into that role, and now you're seeing...
Now it's the realities of being the man.
And the impact that he's now having on other people. We get the scene at the end with the Falcon saying, no, I want it to be you. So now it's kind of turned and come full circle where he is trying to fill in for Steve Rogers, but the next generation, so to speak, is starting to look at him the same way.
Right.
And that's where like we add credibility to him. I think also the fact that he goes, and whether you think this is laughable or not, I think they do a good job qualifying it with the technology he has, but he goes toe-to-toe with the Hulk. Like, you see it on screen.
Yeah.
He fights
and he's even
the Red Hulk.
questioning.
Yeah.
I mean, I should have taken that serum too.
Yeah. So, like, to me, this film does
I
go
agree.
a long way to establish his credibility as Captain America moving forward. And now, as a character, you see, like, okay, he's Captain America now. The task is to reassemble the Avengers, and he's the man for the job. I don't think there's any doubt about that from the Sam Wilson character at the end of this movie.
I totally agree. I think that's what, in the end, as much stuff as it is familiar, even though I will say the CGI actually I thought looked pretty good in this one.
There were a couple of things that I kind of thought were a little wonky.
But better than most.
But better than it has been recently.
Like, some of them are so blatant, I'm like, oh God. Like, and it's during the most pivotal action scenes that looks the worst. But anyway, I think establishing Sam, if that was the goal, then it reached it.
Yeah.
Everything else, again, kind of subpar stuff if you want to compare it to certain MCU stuff. But I also think the heart of it is Sam and him coming to grips with what kind of Captain America is he going to be.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you saw it in that preview over and over and over where Harrison Ford's Thaddeus Ross has said he's no Steve Rogers. And, like, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
So, I think having someone like Harrison Ford in this movie does give it some more, it kind of makes it more of a spectacle because
it's a draw. That's what they were hoping for anyways. Like, it's Captain America
Harrison
and we
Ford
got Harrison
is relevant.
Ford.
Yeah. And you notice, I mean, I think he's like the second name that comes up, even though he's not really in it a ton.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't think, kind of the way we established Sam Wilson, I don't really think we put that much effort into Ford's Thaddeus Ross that much.
Yeah. And to me, I don't know, man. Like, there's still something to be said for, okay, in The Incredible Hulk, Ed Norton was the Hulk. And from what we've seen, like, John Voight has been Thaddeus Ross. So I think there is still, like, for me anyway, did I say John Voight?
You did.
Who did I? John Hurt.
William Hurt.
William Hurt. Okay.
Yeah.
John Voight as Thaddeus Ross.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I sat here for a second and thought, is that a character's name? I was like,
I just-
what is this? John, like, the John Voight?
William-
What a treat he would be. But yes, William Hurt.
I'm just picturing
William
Red
Hurt.
Hulk, John Voight. William Hurt passes. Like, there's nothing that you can do about it. But I do think, like, there is kind of an adjustment where it's like, it's weird that I'm having to remember, okay, Harrison Ford is actually William Hurt.
Yeah.
And
Well, and he makes a comment about the mustache.
Yeah.
Like that.
yeah,
So it did. But here's the thing.
which
And I'm sorry, this
speaks to another point I have.
is no disrespect to William Hurt, but I think it's more jarring because Harrison Ford is one of the most recognizable human beings on this
Absolutely.
planet.
Yeah.
So William Hurt, who was a fantastic actor, when you replace him with, in the movie world with a much bigger name,
Yeah.
that's like,
It feels different.
yeah, and that's why when news broke that Harrison Ford was doing it, I thought, how weird is that? And of course,
Yeah.
I did think like, oh, they must have just been like, $15 million. Would you do it? And he's like, all right. But because he's like, well, I'm doing Yellowstone and Shrinking, so I can still act.
Yeah.
But you know what? Besides like seeing Harrison Ford in a Marvel movie, I didn't really get much out of it.
Yeah.
Out of his character. So even if or when he shows up again, I don't know. I just feel like when you play a president, you're either there to fuck with the Avengers or you show up every like 4 movies just to remind people that like, but now he's a good guy and now he's going to be locked up. So is that where he stays? Is Red Hulk going to be an Avenger later? I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't really care, but
It's difficult at this
Yeah.
point. But I kind of want to start with the things that I didn't like.
Okay.
I'm saying start. We're 20
Yeah, I
minutes
say
into this
I
podcast.
just talked about mainly the biggest strength of this movie.
Yeah.
Was at least Anthony Mackie and Sam Wilson's development. But go ahead.
I think because you said something in there, the comment about the mustache.
Oh yeah.
I felt like this script was chock full of dialogue that kind of had to explain to you what was happening a little on the nose because
this is a sequel to The Incredible Hulk.
Pretty much,
from 2008.
So you missed that stuff, but then we're also like this plot. We're gonna do our Marvel thing. We're gonna shoehorn in some fight scenes. We're gonna shoehorn in some witty one-liners. We've got to check the humor box on this thing.
Yeah.
Some of it feels a little misplaced and like in moments where it shouldn't be. Thinking of Bucky's cameo and how
that's weird.
They're laughing when the Falcon like
he's
is dying on the table. There,
I always thought I felt that was weird too, to have such a heart-to-heart, but then like make the jokes.
Yeah,
like, well, hey, I got to go to a campaign. Love you, and I'm like, is Falcon okay?
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's a weakness of this film, and I kind of feel like it's the result of a plot where they've got so much going on. There's a lot of different things that are happening. Yeah. I caught myself sometimes like trying to stop and think, okay, wait, what's happening here? Like, why did they say?
You might hurt yourself.
Why did they say they were doing this? Like, the tree. I was
trying to keep up with. There's a buyer, and then that Sidewinder guy also is looking for the buyer, but the buyer's also hunting Captain America, and then but the real the buyer is who I thought it probably was because they briefly show him.
Yeah.
But then I don't know.
It's like, okay, so we find out at the end, like the buyer is the leader. They never call him the leader in the film, but that's the character that Tim Blake Nelson is playing, Samuel Stearns.
And is that kind of the way he looks?
Yeah, kind of.
Thing? I think I saw a picture in the comics.
It's more like in the comics. It's more like just an egg shape.
Oh, okay.
Like it's just a big oblong
I think
head.
that's what like Mars Attacks.
Yeah, like Mars, kind of like Mars Attacks.
I was thinking that's what it reminded me of.
But it's not all like brainy and all that. Which the look of that character is, we can debate that maybe, but to highlight the plot, like we get to the end and it's like, oh, so I think he wanted Red Hulk to kill Captain America because then it looks bad on Thaddeus Ross and he's trying to kill his legacy.
Yeah.
But if he wanted Red Hulk to kill Captain America, why did he hire Serpent and Sidewinder to kill him and then also double up the ante to track him down later when he's driving in his car and kill him then? So I'm like, well, maybe he didn't want, maybe Captain America was just like collateral, but then he says he wants to kill and I'm just like sitting in the theater like, I don't like, how are we connecting these dots? And it wasn't just
it's almost like he wanted that Atlantic Ocean catastrophe to happen, and since it didn't, then that's why.
Yeah.
But that doesn't explain why, really kind of the beginning into the middle, why are we doing all this extra work?
Yeah. And I asked you before we started recording if I couldn't remember if it was this movie or something else that has been made recently, but I was like, wasn't this supposed to be essentially like the Falcon and Winter Soldier season 2 on Disney Plus, and then they pivoted and were like, no, we're going to do a Captain America movie? Because
that might be true.
To me, this felt like 10 episodes worth of plot in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, you also might be thinking that Moana 2.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
That was supposed to be a series made into a movie.
So
it could be a season 2 they ended up making one. I mean, that kind of sounds familiar.
Because, I mean, like, if you stop and think about the plot and everything that happens, I think it's kind of a cool story. And I think it's pretty interesting to introduce, or to reintroduce, I should say, the leader, who is like a pretty big villain in the comics, like a pretty big threat. And you see him in the raft at the end of the film where they put like the most dangerous people.
Wasn't that where Harrison Ford is too, though?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm like, they established this pretty credible threat to the world, and I like that they kind of use him to draw all this crazy shit, the Red Hulk, out of Thaddeus Ross, and he's this puppeteer, but it's all moving so quickly. We have other things to get get through, like Celestial Island and this treaty with all these nations, and Thaddeus Ross's relationship with his daughters shoehorned in there too. And like I'm looking around, I'm like, who are all these people? Like there's a new Falcon, and I'm thinking,
but was he in the show?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Like I'm watching it, I'm like, well, shit, is this something that like I missed episode 3 of season 2 of What If on Disney Plus, and now I don't know who this guy is at all. Like all of a sudden,
he looked familiar, but he might just be in another movie I've seen.
He might have been in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I think he may have been, but he was somebody else. I want to think he worked with like kind of what he was doing, but now he's kind of been promoted. The Falcon, I think it's
cool that they're filling the Falcon role too. Like there's a new Captain America, there's a new Falcon. It makes sense, and I think
that'll go down as far as whatever new Avengers group is supposed to be.
But I'm also like, who the hell is this guy? And I'm like, all of a sudden, like there's this new security detail chick, and like, oh, she's former Black Widow. And I'm like, who's Sam's buddy that he's calling to get the pills diagnosed? Like, who is this guy? Where did he come from?
I know. Well, that's the thing is like. But then I figured that the new head of security lady.
Yeah.
I was wondering if she becomes someone.
Maybe she does.
You think she's a Black Widow?
Maybe.
I mean,
but I'm like,
is Scarlett Johansson? She died, right?
Yeah. And now they got Flo. Flo's.
Oh yeah. The
Black Widow. So I'm like, okay, like, is this somebody, or are they just using that to establish that she's pretty cool, like she can do some stuff too?
I don't know.
I just felt like, man, there's so much revolving around my head right now. Like, who is this? Why are they doing this? Why is this treaty so important? I'm trying to keep up with like the details of, okay, who did what? Okay, so and they're like, well, it was funded by a CIA fund or something like that. And I'm like, oh God, is like Thaddeus Ross doing this himself? Oh no, I missed that it was actually like Samuel Stearns paying from, like, getting the money from that account and paying him to put this whole thing into motion. It just felt like at times I'm like, can we just slow down? Like, I really could see this being something that's a little more drawn out, that has a little more character development fleshed out for some of the secondary characters that they introduce, and this being like a really good 10-episode series.
Well, and
but it's crammed in, and it feels rushed, fast. The pace of it is it's my biggest problem with this film.
And
like
it's asking you to remember a lot, even just like from the Incredible Hulk to like why, because I'm going to tell you, some of that shit hasn't been addressed since the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I do think if you would have probably broken it down to a limited series or season 2, I guess I should say, I think there would have been, the stakes would have felt higher.
Yeah.
Never watching this did I feel like any of this was going to be detrimental to whatever Thunderbolts goes on to do or what. I just kind of feel like, hey, remember, he's Captain America, and we've got to assemble a new team because you may have heard Robert Downey Jr.'s doom.
Yeah.
And then let's,
So there was a lot of it on top of the plot that they're trying to cram in, the new characters they're trying to cram in. Then they've got to shoehorn their jokes in because it's Marvel. We've still got to get through our fight scenes. Like, there's just a lot going on here.
Did you think I'm talking about some of the humor is kind of misplaced or just kind of falls flat, but like when Thaddeus Ross is on that bike.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like that's what, like, that's the jokes that like we have. Like, this is what hey, tell them I did 100 push-ups, or I mean,
it's like, tell them I did the full 5 miles.
Yeah, and then they go into telling you something that's going on, and then they return back because they thought it was important for you to know that she'll tell them 3.5. And I just thought, no wonder people were just like, I tell you what, just get to those wings cutting shit.
How do you feel about the Steve Rogers still being brought up? Do you think we've stretched the chip on the shoulder a little too long? Because there was a point where I was just kind of like, all right, like, he's his own man. Like, we gotta move past this. We gotta stop talking about Steve Rogers.
I guess because we really hadn't seen him since the show when he kind of became it. And since this is titled Captain America, even though I think you could argue it could be a Hulk movie too.
Yeah.
Without Mark Ruffalo. I didn't mind it.
It didn't catch you.
No, I mean, I felt like it was kind of it was kind of something that's kind of in the back of Sam's head that you think like he should kind of have this certain kind of confidence in what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now that he's come up and I guess kind of the first like real challenge since he's been Captain America, he's, you know, there's that self-doubt. If we continue to go down this road, yes. Then you're going to start to damage whatever you have built up to this point if we're still, you know, worried about that, the old Captain America who's been gone for a while now.
Yeah. I just kind of felt like it was beating a dead horse a little bit.
Yeah. I think they still want you to like
he's still struggling through this.
Not only that, but I think Marvel wants you to still remember the good old days.
Yeah.
Like, remember when,
maybe that's what it is.
Like, you know, like, I feel like I'm shocked Tony Stark and shit doesn't come up still because it's like we can't get past those two white dudes who retired. Like, we can't do it. And now the fact that Downey will be back, and I don't know if I believe Chris when he says that he was not going to be in it. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like so much is bullshit, but he said he was happily retired. But I mean, I know he got a Marvel paycheck for being Johnny Storm, but it's not Captain America, so I'll give him that. But now, are you going to come back and be someone else? There was a rumor he was going to be somebody else.
He was going to be
start with a C.
Oh man, I can't remember now.
Is it I think it's Coda.
Coda, yeah. He's going to be in the Coda sequel. I don't know, but I don't mean this. I don't mean this to be shade at Chris Evans, but like, how have things gone for him since Captain America?
Yeah, well, I agree.
Like, why not?
I listen. I wouldn't judge him, but it reminds me of the old wrestling where you're never really retired, and never say never. You'll actually be back. Yeah. Where even if it's 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's like, who was it? There used to be a joke about somebody. Was it Cher or somebody that like every few years was her final tour?
The retirement tour.
Yeah. So I feel like there's that going. Yeah. God. But I feel like there's some of that going on. But to your point, there's hardly anybody who has given up MCU to take on other projects.
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
I don't really think Chris Hemsworth has done it. He's done some cool stuff. I liked Furiosa. I like the Bad Times at El Royale, but he's also doing a lot of these forgettable action movies. And he's still Thor. He hasn't retired, and the last Thor was a bummer.
Do you think like, oh, this is an interesting question.
If it wasn't
it's a case study.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Oppenheimer, Downey Jr. hasn't done shit.
Yeah, so like, at what point do actors and maybe their agents start rethinking the Marvel?
Okay, remember when we wanted to do this stuff?
It's a big paycheck, but at the same time, like what you're highlighting is now like people can't look at Chris Hemsworth without seeing Thor.
Yeah.
And it took like something like Oppenheimer for Robert Downey Jr. to be like, no, I can still go. I'm not just Tony Stark.
It was a comeback for Robert Downey Jr., but Robert Downey Jr. was famous and had an Oscar nom before Marvel got him.
Well, that's true.
Most of these guys, yes, maybe they were in some movies, but nobody really knew them.
Yeah.
There is a difference when Marvel kind of makes you the star more than, like, especially with Downey Jr., where it's kind of rejuvenated it and it's kind of shaped it to where he could. Now, he still hasn't gone to do anything except for Oppenheimer.
I think Sebastian Stan's a good example of the opposite of the trend.
So that's what I was going to say, is that Sebastian Stan, which I'm sort of surprised by, of such a breakout with these films, but he is one of the ones that was made famous by Marvel.
Yeah.
But the things he's chosen, and I'm talking like not just A Different Man, The Apprentice that he's gotten attention for now, but I mean, I, Tonya, I never saw that Pam and Tommy Lee thing, but I heard great things.
He was good in it.
So,
the series is a little off the rails for me.
I feel like he's the one.
Wasn't he in The Devil All the Time? Isn't that what was that
with
movie
Tom
called?
Holland?
Yeah.
With Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson.
Was he in
all
it?
Them? I think so. I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to look.
But yes,
We're gonna have to look
he's
up.
a good example. Now I think Florence Pugh does great stuff too, but you know,
But she was Florence Pugh before
right.
Black Widow.
We knew her before then, and she was doing Midsummer and you know, those other movies. What was it? Little Women.
Little Women ruled. Loved Little Women.
So yeah, but I think like Chris Evans, like I mean, Red Notice. If anyone even watched that, I'm sure they did.
Yeah, he was in The Devil All the Time.
Okay, so I would agree. I think he's kind of the one right now because I'll be honest with you, Anthony Mackie does different movies. I couldn't even tell you most of them. I think they're on Netflix. And I mean, Chris Hemsworth is still trying. He does some good stuff, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like his Thor is kind of running out of juice here for, you know, Ragnarok did wonders and then, you know, Love and Thunder couldn't do it. Now it's kind of like, okay, well, now I hear that he wants to kind of get more serious again. It's kind of like,
Good
my
luck.
God, man. So, yeah. So
It's
I don't
just-
know.
It's just interesting to think about.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Evans sticks out to me because I like him,
Yeah, I do too.
but I just can't like,
I mean,
you're right. Like when do you admit that like,
I mean,
okay,
Knives Out. Is that like his only?
I think so. I mean, I'm just, the things off the top of my head are Red Notice and then that Ariana Diamas one, Ghosted. I
Yeah.
thought he was cool in The Gray Man with Ryan Gosling that the Russo brothers did, but I don't think that's a good, that was a waste of $250 million.
When you put it in that context, yeah.
So,
absolutely. It was
I
a
don't-
fine movie.
Yeah, so I just feel like, you know, he gets his biggest pops when he's in Marvel stuff. I don't care who's
Yeah.
playing. That's where he gets it. So I don't, you know, I don't know.
Well, let's get into the positives of what the things that I think made this somewhat enjoyable film for me.
Okay.
First thing I want to say is I'm not sure how I feel about Samuel Stern's appearance in this film. I mean, I get it, like gamma radiation. He's gonna be green. They're gonna make the brain thing.
They're trying to
look
make
weird.
it look more, I guess, like natural than if he was like Tom
It's-
Blake Nelson with like Mars Attacks head. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like it's okay to make it a little grotesque, but there's
Yeah.
still a part of me that just is like little green alien man.
Yeah.
Like I can't shake
but
it.
I will say
And it's
they
kinda-
sort of like keep it hidden when he's in public, where he's not like
Yeah.
totally just wandering around. So
Yeah.
you know, let's give him some credit of hiding that.
But good for Tim Blake Nelson, man. Getting that Marvel paycheck.
Yeah, somebody, it must have been on the red carpet about like, did he ever think he would be brought back into the MCU after being that? And he's like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure it was a shock to him.
Yeah.
That you want to bring him back, and I swear to God, I think he's only been in the Incredible Hulk. I don't even know if the name has been mentioned.
I don't think so. I think, well, that's one of the big things, which another thing I liked about it is that this movie kind of feels like justice for the Incredible Hulk. I think it's one of
It does.
one of the more underrated flicks.
I agree.
And they call back to a lot in Brave
Yes.
New World. But that has always been one of the other things is like from like 2008 when that movie came out. It's like,
It was just
hey, the leader, Samuel Stearns, has been introduced. He's still out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's just, we
Well,
haven't heard anything since.
I don't think people realize, and I had totally forgotten, but the space between Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk coming out, I think, was 2 months,
Yeah, something like
3
that.
months.
Yeah.
And for people, you know, Edward Norton is not Hulk.
Yeah.
So that changed. And if you're wondering, that was the last Hulk movie
Yeah.
you kind of got. But
Yeah.
Ragnarok liked to play with Hulk. This one plays with certain Hulk. So, you know, it's always
Why?
there.
Do you know, have you read anything why they've never made another Hulk movie?
I thought it dealt with some kind of licensing thing.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with like that Hulk movie can't be done, but there's something about.
wasn't there something like somebody else owns the rights to the? I can't remember.
I forgot what it was, but then I think, well, how can they keep doing Hulk stuff?
It's not. Maybe it's not the character, but it's the name.
Yeah, I'm not
can't
sure.
remember.
I felt like it was a court thing.
You're right, because there was a long time where you couldn't watch The Incredible Hulk. I still don't know if you can watch The Incredible Hulk on Disney Plus.
Oh no, it's on there.
Is it on there now?
Yeah, I watched it before I saw.
I know there was a big thing at one point where it was like the one Marvel movie missing from there.
Yeah. Well, because
we could just look it up, or we could just make
no.
guesses on
I
a
like to
podcast.
guess, but I'll be honest. I think Universal is a part of The Incredible Hulk, and I don't think I think that's part of it too because of the TV show and something else. I
it's
think
like they would have to pay Universal a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, to do
and
it.
it's a CGI heavy character.
Yeah.
So I felt
Let's
like
go
there
with
was
it.
something like
I don't want to look up what it is.
No, I remember something
But it
about
does-
like it was going to cost a lot, but I don't remember.
People have been craving for a Hulk movie and a Jason Voorhees movie. Can they just not straighten that shit out in the courts?
Can we put them in the same movie?
Yeah. Oh, good idea.
Yeah. So I like Tim Blake Nelson. I really liked his delivery of this character too.
Yeah,
because,
I do too.
You know, he's very articulate, very eloquent with the way that he speaks. He really portrays the mad genius, so
And
to
he's a
speak,
s-
pretty
and, you
well
know,
in his delivery.
He's a scrawny guy, so you can't really fight.
Yeah.
So he has to kind of be that mad genius. But
With the
I agree.
technology that
Yeah,
he has.
I
yeah.
agree. He's threatening in a different way.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I was happy for him as a guy that
and do you remember seeing him at the film festival?
we saw him at the Nashville Film Festival because his son had a movie. It was Asleep in My Palm. His son that did it.
Yeah. Was
And
that
he
when
was-
we saw him, or was
he was
it?
in that,
Yeah, it
and
was.
they were doing a screening that night. We were going to see something else.
Yeah.
But he was on his phone watching football.
Yeah.
in the
Not just a
lobby.
phone. I think it was like a huge iPad.
An iPad so that
just
he could.
wandering around
Yeah.
watching it.
But I haven't met him, but from what I've heard, he's like a super nice guy.
I've heard he's very down to earth, which he
Yeah.
seems like just
a really talented actor too.
yeah.
So
I
I was happy to see him kind of
I was too.
reprise this role, get this paycheck, kind of come back to the. I'm not saying like this is his Glenn Powell run or anything. He's going to start getting all kinds of roles.
No,
but
he's always been kind of just a guy that's in way more stuff than anybody has probably been paying attention to.
But I appreciated. I was happy for what we've heard, like one of the good ones.
Yeah.
So I would also say that it wasn't a big role, but I am always down for Giancarlo Esposito as a bad guy. I liked Sidewinder. It was kind of weird.
Is Sidewinder, that's a real villain?
Yeah.
Is he just like a mercenary person?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think it was kind of weird. Like, he's such an old guy to see him like hand-to-hand combat with Sam Wilson was a little weird, but
yeah,
he's just such a good villain. For his scenes, they were all enjoyable.
I like him. I just felt like he was just filler.
It's just another shoehorn character.
Yeah, he's a guy that's doing the heavy lifting.
We can get another villain in here.
And we'll have him in a few scenes. He'll kind of be the action aspect of it, and then he gets caught, and even like the scenes where him and Sam are talking, it's information it seems like they both already know, so I don't know why.
Yeah, it's like we're just
nothing seems that significant.
Let me just run this by you,
but
and
just
make sure
know
it's right.
that where he's going, he'll be out, and so he'll be in something else later.
Disney Plus series.
I mean, I'm sure he will be.
We're gonna get a Falcon series where the Falcon
That
grows into
new
his
guy,
role.
Yeah.
And
Sidewinder's
Sidewinder's going to
back.
be the
Now,
villain.
did you mention someone else? Serpent? Is he?
Serpent. That's the organization.
Oh, okay. I thought that was I remember hearing about it, but I thought for some reason it was referenced like as if it was a character. I'm like, who was it? But I see.
Yeah,
That's who he works for.
I'm gonna look it up because I did not.
Is Serpent against Shield?
Serpent is a person, I guess.
Oh, Serpent is a person.
Yeah, but in the
movie,
they made it an organization.
Oh, okay. All right, I see.
So there's like, or maybe I'm looking at it wrong. We're live podcasting right now.
Well, either way,
Serpent Society is the group that I'm thinking of, and it's like a whole bunch of dudes that are named after snakes.
I see.
Because there's like I noticed a credit in Brave New World. Somebody was credited as Copperhead. And I was like, I didn't hear anybody call somebody Copperhead, but I think like maybe it's the big guy that he fights in the church while Sidewinder gets away.
Yeah, I bet Seth Rollins was going to be a snake.
I bet that's what we talked about it. I said it like, oh, he's one of the guys that just gets beat up in Mexico at the beginning of the film.
Judging by his pictures, he could be Anaconda.
Yeah, so the founding members were Sidewinder, Anaconda.
Yes, that's him. I guarantee it.
Asp.
Oh.
Black Mamba, Bushmaster. We've met Bushmaster in the Luke Cage series.
Oh yeah.
Cobra, Cottonmouth, Diamondback, Death Adder, Princess Python.
These are all
and Rattler.
These are all real characters
in the comics, yeah. And Copperhead. Copperhead is listed among the later members.
Boy. Okay. Well, they went down with
Constrictor.
So what makes Sidewinder so special to get somebody like him to play?
Let's see.
Is he the leader?
He's a former economics professor and the founder of the Serpent Society who can teleport using his cloak. He was the group's leader until Viper's Serpent Squad infiltrated the society, after which he retired and left leadership to Cobra. This is like a whole lore for these guys. It's like,
all right. Well,
I mean, I think they did it right. Like, they're not going to call them the Serpent Society.
Yeah, okay.
Serpent is an organization. It's like a mercenary organization, and he's called Sidewinder, but we're not going to make everybody in this group. Everybody that Captain America beats up is named after a snake. Yeah.
So,
and I'm glad that they didn't let him teleport.
I just didn't really find. I like him, and you're right. He does make a great villain. I just didn't really think it added a whole lot to the story itself, especially when, like you were talking about earlier, if you want to try to piece it together, half the stuff that Sidewinder's doing doesn't mean anything.
I still don't know why they wanted Captain America and Falcon in Mexico
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and we
they
talk
bought
about
it, right?
how weird it is.
Thaddeus Ross wanted to get it, but it's almost like they wanted to make you think he was a part of it. But then, if you're just wanting to, well, I don't know why. Yeah, why did you want Captain America? All you really was trying to do is start a war with U.S. and Japan.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess they wanted.
But I also found it funny how easy it was to just stop it.
They wanted.
Like, I know they're on the brink.
They told Sam that like the priority was the package, so maybe they just didn't count on him going rogue and rescuing the hostages.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, again, like I'm sitting here trying to piece like, okay, why? How
probably not worth it.
How can I make this make sense?
Yeah, right.
And it's difficult to do. What did you think of the Captain America suit? I thought it's cool, like the vibranium.
I thought it looked good.
It is a nice touch. I think they showed off like cutting things with the wings was pretty cool.
I think quite a few of the action sequences I thought were pretty entertaining.
They kept true with like the vibranium thing where like it absorbs the force of what hits it and then it can
That's all
throw
with
it back.
Wakanda, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
okay.
so I thought that was cool. I thought the fight scenes, there was like one time that he threw the shield and just managed to hit every single person he wanted to that I thought, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I thought the fight scenes were cool. Even the big showdown between Captain America and Red Hulk. I know people kind of cringe like, oh, like Sam Wilson's just a regular dude in a suit going up against the Hulk. But I mean, come on, man. It's a superhero movie. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, go watch The Incredible Hulk again when Tim Roth is just fighting Hulk.
Yeah.
He's fighting him.
Yeah.
He's fighting him. no problem. That's what, I mean, it doesn't end well for him, but it does impress Thaddeus because then he becomes abominable.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Abominable, the from Rudolph.
isn't that what
It's
is it?
Abomination.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm thinking of that movie for movie night with my son a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Which
He
makes it
becomes
even- yeah, which makes
becomes
it
the Yeti from
Yeah.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Yeah.
Reindeer.
But yeah, I had a feeling, and I kind of had read some stuff that the Red Hulk shows up once and only once, and it's
Yeah.
only for probably less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Did you find when he finally reveals himself, when it's full-fledged, did you find yourself disappointed?
No,
Okay.
not
I didn't
really.
either.
No, I mean, I kind of felt like I kind of felt like it was, I'm not going to fault anybody that is not like up to speed on everything that's going on in Marvel. If
Yeah.
it is kind of marketed as Captain America versus Red Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, and that's I think where you're kind of
there is
setting yourself up because you're probably thinking maybe he turns into it twice,
yeah,
3 times,
yeah. But it's not.
which he doesn't.
That's
Spoiler
not.
alert.
That's not really the story at all.
It's
And
no,
I
it's
kind of
not.
felt like once I found out, okay, they're going to Samuel Stearns is in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Giancarlo Esposito in this movie as Sidewinder. I'm kind of like, how are they going to fit a Hulk versus Captain America story into this? Like, I kind of felt like I read something. It wasn't necessarily a spoiler. No, it was a spoiler where it was just basically like Samuel Stearns is pulling the strings the whole time.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was like, okay, that's the story. That's the story.
Yeah.
But if you're just going off of the previews, I don't know. Do they even show or mention Samuel Stearns at all in any of the previews?
I don't think it's mentioned, but he is shown in a trailer in the shadows wherein he says, they show, I think, when he's talking to him and you can't see him, but he's talking to
Yeah.
Falcon and Captain America. But then I think there's dialogue over that where he talks about where I think he's actually talking to Thaddeus Ross in the movie, but it's basically like you can hear his voice, but you see him in the shadow.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, and I'm sure, probably already exposed it, but the leader's never mentioned, and I don't think his name is ever mentioned, but he is hinted at and shown in a silhouette of part of it. As when I saw it, it did make it look like, oh, he must be the main one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know what I didn't really know what part he would play. And I actually thought Red Hulk would be I was kind of, well, I guess I shouldn't say anything, but I was kind of surprised this version of a Thaddeus Ross.
Yeah.
I expected it to be, I guess, more of what we've come to know, but it's actually what he's fighting
Yeah.
against this time, which
Yeah.
also leads to, like you were talking about, with trying to mend things with his daughter. But
I thought they were going to make it like he knew he was
like he understood that he was
Yeah.
who he was. Yeah.
and
well,
it was just like, I'm doing this to stay alive.
That's
so
what-
don't judge me. But it was, no, I'm being poisoned by this guy, basically.
That's how. So I didn't really expect that kind of telling of why he was the Red Hulk, but
Yeah.
because I thought he already knew,
Yeah.
but I saw because almost immediately he's like taking those pills. So I guess the twist is that he didn't know he had it in him, but
Yeah.
yeah, most of it was about trying to unleash it. So obviously, he was trying to kind of keep the lid on it. And so when it does happen, to me, it makes sense that, because to me, if you do show it several times within 2 hours, it's also probably not that big of a deal when we get to the end either.
Yeah. And it kind of,
So,
I don't know. It kind of becomes weird. Like, what is he like just
does he just do it
over the course of this movie? Like, surprise, I'm a Hulk to
Yeah.
I'm the Hulk. I'm going to
Yeah,
master this.
yeah.
And, like, it didn't make sense to
So
begin with
so
from
in
a
a way,
storytelling standpoint.
I'm glad that it wasn't
Yeah, I'm with
a
you.
full-on Red
I'm
Hulk
with you.
versus Captain America.
Yeah. Last thing I'll mention, a little bit of justice for Eternals too. We go
Yeah,
back.
I'm still not a big fan of that one.
We go back to but we at least, for the love of God,
Go
have
back to
finally acknowledged that there's a giant celestial being
Yes.
in the middle of the ocean.
When they showed that, and I feel like maybe it was shown in a show. I don't know.
I don't remember. It's just been like
But
it's
I'm
just been hanging out there for years.
That was from the Eternals, right? Like
Yeah.
that did
Yeah.
happen during it.
So we've at least acknowledged that now,
Yes.
and it's a pretty big plot device in this story,
yeah,
because we learn that they're able to mine adamantium,
right.
which, if you didn't know,
Yes,
is
I'm listening.
the substance that coats Wolverine's bones.
Oh, so it's the
So-
opening for X-Men.
I was pretty excited to see that, because I'm
I
thinking
knew it had
like,
something-
okay, this isn't going to be some lazy thing where they just pull Wolverine from another dimension.
I see.
My guess is, because of the lore with Wolverine in Japan, the Japanese are going to conduct the Weapon X program, and they're going to find Logan, who we know mutants are out there.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, like, Logan just has the bones that are claws,
Yeah.
and he has the healing factor.
Does Hugh Jackman play this version too?
Man, I don't know. That
Because
would
I
be,
don't think he should.
I don't think he should.
I don't think he should play Wolverine ever again.
I don't think he should play Wolverine ever again either. So it's like, okay, maybe
All
this
right,
is
but
how
okay, all right.
they do it without just saying, oh, we're going to pluck a Wolverine from another dimension.
Well, and I just read a thing where they were trying to get Margaret Qualley to be Rogue for their X-Men movie.
Oh, that would be sick.
Yeah,
That
there
would
was
be
a casting. I mean, there's always casting rumors for MCU, but they had like a little like 4 people, and I was like, oh, that's a nice little that's a nice
Yeah.
cast if you can kind of do it that way.
So do we know any rumors on Wolverine? Because I
I
haven't
don't
kept up
know.
with it.
I mean,
Maybe it is just going to be Hugh
as
Jackman.
far as I know, Hugh Jackman this isn't a one and done kind of thing.
We're gonna see the next clip is gonna be Hugh Jackman in Japan.
I'm just so sick of multiverse stuff. I just don't even care.
I
Just
think,
get me
like,
back to regular Earth.
We can do another alien invasion thing. Fuck it, who cares?
I mean, yeah, I mean,
But I think Marvel. I don't know if they have learned, but I have learned that I think the multiverse stuff is too much of a strain on the audience to keep up with.
yeah,
In a way that makes sense, that
yeah.
doesn't just
You can dumb it
completely
down.
that doesn't just completely eliminate the stakes. You know, like if
Yeah.
you see someone die,
Right.
you just got to tell them like, oh, well, it's the multiverse, so maybe there's another one out there that we can see again. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, then why does it matter if anybody dies? If they
Yeah.
can just come
No,
back.
that's what I
So
mean.
I kind of like, I was kind of wrestling with that on the way home from the movie too, just kind of thinking like, we're going to go the alien invasion route again. And it appears that's what Thunderbolts is. I can't remember who the villain is in Thunderbolts, but it is like a cosmic entity that comes to Earth. And
It's what's his name?
is it the Sentry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's playing him?
That guy in Nosferatu with that voice. What's his name?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, he's the voice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now it's going to bug me because I don't know his name.
I forgot his name, but I just remember, and he's in something else here recently. But Nosferatu is the one that I think of. But yeah, he's gonna voice him. Because I saw, anytime you see a Marvel movie, they show you other Marvel stuff, no matter if you've seen it 1,000 times or not. And they, I think it's the last thing they show in the trailer I saw was that helmet thing he wears.
Yeah.
Which is he like he looks like he was. He looks like he could like eat planet Earth.
Yeah. Probably.
How the hell does so the Thunderbolts can do it? Some
That's
stuff
the
just
story.
doesn't make sense.
That's the story.
But
I don't
also,
know.
isn't he a big villain?
Yeah. Like an Avengers level
Yeah.
threat kind of deal. Yeah. So I don't know. Curious to see where they go.
Yeah,
for
me too.
For me, Captain America: Brave New World is a right down the middle 2.5 out of 5. Like
That's
to me, it was perfectly fine for what it is. I don't get. And maybe this is just me. I don't get how people could love Deadpool and Wolverine and just hate this.
Yeah.
Opposite ends of the spectrum.
At least
because
they're
they
trying
feel,
something over here.
They feel like similar movies in terms of quality. And
Yeah, I'm more interested in trying to move this story, or like with Sam Wilson, let's move the character.
yeah.
I felt like Deadpool and Wolverine, it's almost like when they got their 2 stars, then they thought, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah. No,
You know what I mean?
I think
it's
they're-
fine if you want to do cameos and shit that was supposed to happen. So let's dress Channing Tatum up in Gambit and let's, Wesley Snipes is Blade. I'm not saying it's not cool to see, but what the fuck does it have to do with anything that Marvel's going to be doing besides
true.
just total like gross fan service just so you can see it? I mean,
That's true. I think like
most
ramifications
people who saw that
wise,
don't even know who Wesley Snipes is.
Yeah, ramifications wise, I do think like Brave New World is a much more significant part of the storytelling of at least trying to get the MCU back on track and setting up for what's next, which is the first time in a long time we've heard the Avengers. Like that's where we're headed, and I think that's an important thing.
Yes.
I like the development of the Sam Wilson character, like we talked about.
Me too.
What I was saying was just like in terms of like these are both messes, but messes for different reasons. And
Okay,
maybe it's it's like we're still not at Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther,
no.
Thor Ragnarok quality storytelling.
Will we ever get there again? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I think so
we've
either.
we've just got to accept that the Infinity Saga was one of the greatest achievements in cinematic history for like an 11-year storytelling arc to finish the way that it did. I just don't think like you can recapture that magic.
I agree.
At this point, that's where I'm at. Like you tried the multiverse stuff, people weren't really receptive to it. You tried saturating your audience with just program after program, like 4 movies a year, all these series. It didn't really work the way you wanted it to. The quality of these projects started slipping through the cracks, and now you're at a point where like I just don't know. It feels aimless.
Yes.
A lot of these projects are subpar, but at least maybe now we're kind of, as a result of this movie, and maybe this is a positive quality of it, is like now it kind of feels like, okay, let's start telling the next big story, clean up some of this stuff, even if it just means we do simplify things and go back to telling simpler one-off stories. That's what we need to do to slowly but surely get this thing back on the rails. And maybe instead of trying desperately to do something different, maybe we just accept that people love the characters. They're going to come see the movies and just stick with what works.
Yeah. I will say, I think the one thing that is that Brave New World does feel like a more watered down version of something that I feel like would have been more direct in kind of what they dance around in, as far as what Sam Wilson represents and what kind of society that he's living in as Captain America.
Yeah.
And those that are inspired by him or threatened by him. And I do feel like there were some things that's like, okay, you know what, we'll do this, but
they'll pick up on what we're trying to do here. We don't have
but
to
I can't
directly say it.
Yeah, I can't. I don't have the balls to actually say it.
Yeah.
And I was telling you that his name is Robert Daniels, and he did not like this movie. He writes for RogerEbert.com, but he had commented on social media when someone was asking him. I don't know what the conversation was, but he basically said, go watch Falcon and Winter Soldier and then go watch this movie, and you'll see the difference in just how much they have kind of wimped out on what kind of what their messaging was and what kind of what Sam Wilson would stand for in a world that we're currently living in. So,
which I told
that's
you,
disappointing.
Like, some of the imagery, like big angry red guy on top of the White House waving the American flag around, was like they kind of wanted to say something but never really dove in and actually said it. Which, I mean,
they're just pussyfooting around.
Yeah,
they're just pussyfooting around.
Yeah,
no matter how you feel, it's like a very.
And that's one area that I think there is an opportunity, like, to get a little deeper and go somewhere with the story that I just don't think they were willing to go that far.
There are so many other MCU projects that I felt like do focus on kind of whatever kind of time we've been living in.
Yeah.
From 2008 on. And now it's just kind of like I just think they're so desperate to win over anyone they can that they're not going to take some chances with their storytelling anymore.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yes, I like the action sequences. I thought most of the CGI looked pretty good. Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, I think is the strongest of it.
Yeah.
Fun to see Harrison Ford in it. Didn't really move the needle for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. It was a 2.5. It's a very, like I said, it's an average MCU action movie. It's an average action movie, really.
Yeah.
MCU or not. But I don't know. Like, I guess I'm surprised when people come out swinging at it because I'm just like,
like, have you seen
at
the
what
last...
point? At what point do we need to come to terms that, like you said, the Infinity Saga, put that on the top shelf because I don't think we'll ever get to that point.
I don't think so either.
And now we're bringing in people who have been one character and going to be another, and that's because it's safe. They just want to get back to where everything just made $1 billion and everything was gold. But they, like you said, they kept going back. They keep going back to the same damn well, and But I mean, I'll be there for Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. So
I'm actually stoked to see the Thunderbolts.
I think it looks like kind of an odd crew of misfits, and they're all people that don't necessarily. They're not like.
Yeah.
MCU famous.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
If Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, this next stretch of MCU movies, if those disappoint, I think that will be the final nail in the coffin. I'll be crushed.
I'll
be devastated.
I think the disappointment will run deep if Fantastic Four can't do it because that cast, the story it's telling, the era it's in, the trailer, it really looks like it might be one of the best things they've ever done.
Yeah,
but only time will tell. But that's in July. What is it? I think Thunderbolts is
May,
and then
Fantastic Four is July.
It's like July 4th weekend or something. I think it's July 2nd.
Is anything else? Are those?
I think that's it. I don't think they're doing anything for the rest of the year. Fantastic Four is what determines it, and then, there might be a show or something. I'm not sure, but as far as movies, I think they're doing February, May, and July, and running. I think a lot of stuff is going to be decided if Fantastic Four is a success or not. And I mean critically and commercially. I think it's going to have to. It's going to have to do both.
Which, to be fair, I think is probably the way to go. I would say.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So,
I think so too.
Technically, Thunderbolts is the end of Phase 5. So Fantastic Four starts Phase 6. It really is like a clean break.
Yeah. So that must be when you bring in.
Oh shit! I didn't realize
X-Men and stuff.
I didn't realize Avengers Doomsday is next year.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh. And they're only going to have one more movie?
So on August. Supposed to be Eyes of Wakanda on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay, that's a show.
October is Marvel Zombies, which I don't know if it'll.
If that has. Any, okay.
And then December of 2025 is Wonder Man, which I'm actually kind of intrigued by.
Oh.
So it looks like, but still, that feels like probably a little less than they were doing a little bit ago.
Yeah, but I mean, talking, what do you, 4 movies and 2 shows? Which the Zombies one might just be one of those, like, where, like, maybe it's just a fun one that they're doing. I don't know. But that's quite a bit of, I mean, that's more than last year.
That's true. Well, they wanted to take a little break, you know.
Yeah. Well,
let's see what else.
Fantastic Four has to get the blood
shit.
Pumping.
Daredevil is this year too.
Oh yeah.
That's coming up like in a few weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's actually.
And then Ironheart in June. So yeah, well, I mean they're really back at it.
Now
they took their break.
Yep.
They just trotted out Deadpool and Wolverine and Agatha all along, and they got to get Brave New World done because they did it. And
Yep.
we're going to get back at it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Any parting thoughts on Captain America Brave New World?
No, but I think Liv Tyler is fake.
That's an interesting theory. That I would not be surprised if that was
You
all
never
hologram.
You never see her until the end.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Liv Tyler's too busy, but the way that scene is framed, it looks like it's very easy because there is a clean line of separation. I'm just saying, why of all things to spend money to do that, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's probably something that, by the time next year comes around, I'll forget when it came out. But I sat there and it was entertaining enough. I really was mostly fascinated with Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson. I'm happy to see at least that they're building him into the leader that apparently he is going to need to be for this new team of Avengers. So yeah, I think you kind of just have to see it for what it is, and I do think critics have been a little harsh on it, but Marvel and Star Wars,
Star Wars, I don't even watch any of it anymore.
I don't either, not any of the shows, but it's just like it when you're so invested.
Mm-hmm.
Every single project you're hoping is the one
that
will bring you back to the glory days. And I just think, like you said, I think for both of these things, the best has happened. Let's just try to enjoy whatever comes our way now.
I will leave you with this, Brandon. I want to ask you, did you at any point in this film think Sam Wilson was going to look up at the Red Hulk and say, "Hey, big guy, sun's getting real low"?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Because I thought for a second, I was like, he's about to, this is Marvel, they're going to shoehorn the joke in, and he's going to say, "Hey, big guy, sun's getting real low." But he didn't, so I'm glad.
No.
Somebody was in that room. They had to be. Like, this is...
Felt like that was easy to...
Yeah, we're this is going to be funny.
Compared to other stuff, I thought, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
But I think, like, if you like the Marvel movies collectively as a whole, I don't think this one is, like, so bad that it's not. I think there's plenty to enjoy about this movie.
I agree. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if I said it or not, but I went with the 2.5.
2.5 for me too. Yeah.
That feels right.
So that's going to do it for us, this episode of the Vick's Flicks podcast on Nashville Movie Dispatch. Be sure to subscribe to Nashville Movie Dispatch to catch up all of our reviews, podcast lists, features. It's all up there, nashvillemoviedispatch.substack.com. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you take in your shows. Just type in Nashville Movie Dispatch and the feed will pop up. For Brandon Vick, I'm Stoney Keeley, and until next time, you stay classy, moviegoers.